Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. Just doing Terran replay reviews, and I want to go over this particular replay, which the opponent got a little chatty at the end of the game, not in a BM sense, but basically calling out that what I am doing is basically a 2-base all-in. And after chatting with him, I don't necessarily disagree. So I want to kind of reframe the build in that context, right? So basically what we're doing is we're opening with the standard double gas build, and we're going to play Reapers and Cyclones, and then we're going to go into Ravens, Tanks, and Medivacs with Bio, right? So let's just see how the opening plays out. We don't get any scouting other than our initial SCV scout. We keep the Reaper at home. We probably should have moved out with it. Second Reaper picks off his Reaper. We place the expansion in a bad spot, which made it hard for us to get our reactor, so we lose some time there. And then now we're going into our tech labs to get our Ravens and Tanks, and we take our natural and our third gas, and our Cyclones handle the Reaper Hellion attack no problem. Opponent scans to see what we're doing, sees the tech lab upgrading on the starport. And then now we're basically ready to prep for our timing. So we've got our double engineering bay, we've got our 3-rack set up. Opponent scans again, still sees us on the tech lab, and then right after the scan finishes, we swap, go for stim, and then now we're basically just going to macro up to 46 SCVs, making 2 depots at a time, 5 Marines, 1 tank, and Medivacs. So when we push out, we take the watchtower, reposition, because he sees what angle we're coming from, so we change angles. And he's only got 1 tank at the front. We disable it, drop 3 auto turrets, and then he starts discussing, voicing his displeasure with the build. But as he's saying that, let's go back to as the attack is occurring and look at the units rather than the production, right? So if I look at units, right, we're up 5 SCVs, we're up Marines, and our opponent hasn't put a third down either, right? So our opponent is on the same exact setup that we're on, right? His production is exactly the same. The only difference is he's got an armory. Otherwise, our infrastructure looks identical, right? He's got an armory and a bunker, and I've got the same exact setup for production with the same add-ons, right? The only difference is I'm basically ahead in depots, right? So if I look at structures, it's 10 depots to 6, right? 10 depots to 6, and I've got more SCVs. So my economy technically a little better right now. And the question is, did he react to that scan, right? So let's watch his side a little bit. So he goes starport after expand. His starport's a little bit late. And then he's getting an extra racks, and this is before he scouted anything, right? So now he scans my main. Doesn't seem to make any adjustments. So I'm not sure what his beef actually is, because if you were going to take a third, you would take it at a 1-1-1 setup, not a 3-1-1, right? And he was getting his +1 a lot earlier. So yeah, I'm not totally sure what's going on here. And then let's see. Okay, here comes my push. And then let's watch the fight in regular speed. So basically, I'm just going to try and take up this siege position, which is always generally a nasty siege position. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what the beef is. But if I look at the units, he's got 0 army right now, and then I'm still up on SCVs. And then if we look at the production, I'm building maximum out of my facilities, right? And I'm not overqueued or anything. And then basically at this point, this is when I would drop the third, right? So I would do the attack, and then however the attack does, and then drop a third, and then resume SCV production, right? And I've been thinking about how to resume SCV production, and what I'm going to do going forward is re-rally the main back into its own mineral line, rally the natural into its own mineral line, and then just smash the SCV key so that as the third is being built on location and transforming into an orbital, I'm going to get the individual bases I want to get up to basically 24 SCVs max, right? Because 24 SCVs is max saturation that you can get on 8 mineral patches, 3 per patch basically is the maximum that you could actually do. Right now they're all on 2 per patch. You can get up to 3 per patch, and they're still mining. After 3 per patch, they're not mining anymore. So that's the way that we can continue to make SCVs while we're building the third. And then obviously we're just going to go up into our macro practice right after this. So let's blitz through at 8x speed and look at how we're doing our macro practice. So what we're adding on is 2 racks, a factory, an armory, and the third. The +2/+2 bio, and then vehicle weapons. Okay. So right now we're in our 5-2-1 setup. Right, so +2/+2 is on the way. We're going to go into +3/+3. We're getting +2 vehicle weapons. And then we should be making, at this point, 9 Marines, 2 Medivacs, and 2 tanks. And then we're dropped the 4th. And then after the 4th is dropped, we're going to add on 3 more racks and another armory as our next transition phase. Okay, so there's 3 more racks and an armory as the transition. We had forgotten combat shields. We made that up now. And then for upgrades, we're getting our full bio. We're going to get the building upgrades as well. And then from the armories, now that we have +2 vehicle weapons, we're going to switch into air weapons. Because at this point in the game, you are basically either going to have effectively won the game and seized map control, and then your opponent will either leave the game or turtle. And if they turtle, we want to upgrade our air so that we can break their turtle, basically. So we're taking the 4th, it becomes a planetary, and then if you have the money, what you do is the first phase of this is you drop the extra CCs so that you can take the bases, right? So if I look at this, I should have 3 CCs over here because there's 1, 2, 3 bases on this side, and then there's 1 base on this side, so a CC there, right? So this allows me to float command centers over, and you don't have to float them all at once. You should only float them when you have the SCVs to transfer, right? So at this stage in the game, when we're playing 4 base, we want to be on 74 SCVs, but when we're playing split map, we want to go all the way up to 85 SCVs. And in that split map scenario with 85 SCVs, basically just take bases as you need to transfer. You don't have to take all the bases because then you have to defend them, right? So we basically just want to creep forward on the map. And then we're going to go into our 5 reactor, 3 tech lab split, add concussive shells. So at this phase in the game, we're still playing Biotank Medivac, but we can add Marauders for additional tankiness with the mass bio so that we can push into tank lines slightly easier, right? The Marauders won't... Even though tanks do bonus damage to Marauders in large numbers, With a giant bio ball, it's better to have marauders in there. And we don't have to run directly into tank fire, right? We just need to, at this stage in the game, we just need to poke the edge bases. And if he's sieged up on one edge base, just rotate over to the other one. Right, this is oversimplifying things a little bit, but this is basically how you have to think about the end game. And then for endgame infrastructure, we go up to 5 starports and 3 factories. And when we go up to the 5 starports, that's when we're going to go ahead and add the fusion core. And basically what we're thinking about doing here with this set of infrastructure is we can swap out from a bio-based army into more of a tier 2 mech composition, right? So you can see we're taking the split map situation, we're adding on additional orbitals, we're simulating trading out army, and then now we're going to rebuild in a tier 2 mech composition, right? We're also going up to 85 SCVs, which is where we should be. We were maxed earlier, so we couldn't get up to 85 SCVs, but that's what you would want to be doing. And then in terms of upgrades, this should be not vehicle weapons level 3, but plating level 3 plus ship weapons level 3. And then we also want, and we're going to get it, we want the smart servos for Vikings. So basically, fully upgraded air is 3-3 air weapons and plating. And then other upgrades that you need, interference matrix we get early in the game, advanced ballistics for liberator range, and then smart servos for Vikings to land, right? So when we go into tier 2 mech, the tier 2 mech composition is basically tanks on the ground, and then in the air, Vikings, libs, and ravens, right? So that's how you transition off of bio with that composition. The bio composition is very straightforward, right? So if we're looking at bio and we look at our upgrades, it's basically stim, shields, shells, Caduceus reactor, that's our bio Medivac upgrades, and then just the 3-3 obviously, and then the +2 for tank, right? So we're playing most of the game with fully upgraded bio, and then after we're out of the map control phase and into the need to finish the opponent off phase, then we want to switch into the tier 2 mech style. And the reason I'm talking about this and the mistake that I've been making is I've been in split map scenarios where I've stayed on bio for too long, and my opponent has gone into the composition of tank, Viking, liberator, and I can't break them with bio, and adding Thors into the mix doesn't help. And in that situation, I've been trying to play bio Viking with Thor, and it just doesn't work. You're not able to break them like that. So what I need to do instead is match the tank Viking lib composition, but then also just add ravens for anti-armor missile and interference matrix. So you can imagine if you're getting into those scenarios against the opponent, what you can do is basically anti-armor the ball of air units, and then interference matrix as many tanks as you can, and then drop as many turrets as you can, and then start sieging into the fight, right? So it's like you need the ravens to initiate, right? And if you anti-armor missile the air ball, they might back off a little bit, and then you can interference matrix the furthest up siege units, so like the furthest up liberator and the furthest up tanks, and then put your army into a siege position, right? And you need to be fully upgraded to actually take that fight, and what you're hoping is that your opponent might not necessarily be fully upgraded. And then once you break their siege army, then you can choose to go back into more of a bio-based army like bio tank Medivac again, right? Because you've broken their siege army, or you can just continue to play with the tier 2 mech style. So yeah, I'm looking for how to basically play a split map scenario in these lower elo rankings, and I think this is going to be the way to do it. But I'm definitely trying to take all of the learnings from all of the different content creators that I've been following over the last few years. My StarCraft 2 journey really took off with the start of the pandemic, right? So all of the learnings from different beta GMs, whether that's Vibes or Pigs, or all of the build guides that I learned from watching people from the All Things Terran Reddit forum, specifically Rayus Goes Roar and Drift SC2. I think those guys have some of the best build guides, even though they're slightly outdated now, right? This is like the educational style content creators, right? You also have like your Winters and your Locos, the more of like the entertainment slanted folks, and then obviously you can just watch ESL and GSL, right? So there's lots of ways to get into SC2, but what I like is the more educational track, because when you're actually playing the game, there's so many different scenarios that you have to have some kind of plan for what's going to happen in any given scenario. You really can't freestyle your way into late game, because then you're going to find that you're not actually thinking or planning. You're kind of in a mental block state. And the example of playing against a player who played tier 2 mech against my bio, and we were in a perfect split map scenario, and I even had more bases than he did. I had every single base on my side of the map, and he was like two bases behind for a while, and then eventually caught up. And at the end game, after I threw away my army too many times, he was able to just siege crawl across my side of the map, and then I quit out. But I had plenty of economy still, right? And what I don't want to do in that situation is play tier 3, because the Thors and the BCs, which are going to be the only units I consider tier 3, right? Thors and BCs for Terrans. I don't think Ghosts are really a tier 3 unit, but the Thors and BCs are, and it just takes too long to transfer into them. They're too expensive and they're too supply intensive, right? So at 6 supply for BCs and Thors, it's just way better to build this tier 2 mech style, and I've never actually played with this in a live game, and that's what I'm trying to get to, is a point where I'm not going to sandbag any of these games, but I want to get to an end game scenario where I've got my infrastructure set up exactly the way that I want, and I want to switch from trading out my bio into a tier 2 mech style to try and close the game out. And then I'll be able to flexibly go between bio slanted into this tier 2 mech style slanted. So that basically means you can play bio Medivac with tank support, or you can play tank Viking with bio support, or you can play tank Viking lib. And in all of those compositions, Ravens are your utility pieces for initiating fights against siege positions. So yeah, StarCraft 2 is an amazing game. I'm really enjoying where I'm at in the current journey. When the patch change came and changed Cyclones, I lost a ton of MMR, went all the way back to Platinum 2, and now through going through the learning process once again, watching and analyzing my replays, I've climbed my way back into Diamond 3, and I want to continue progressing now. I want to make the push from Diamond 3 to Diamond 2 now, is what I'm going to try to do next. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed.